Pump it, then tax it. I don't know about you. I've had enough of it. Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto, and follow the money if you can even find the money, because it is not easy to get out of a Democratic congressman when he's looking for more money, and not just a little more money. Oregon's Earl Blumenauer wants to double the federal gas tax because he says our infrastructure needs the dough. I asked him what happened to all that other infrastructure dough. Let's just say the interview got taxing. Do you honestly believe, working with the folks that you do, that the money you might get from this gas tax is going to be used exclusively and only for repairing roads and bridges and fixing our highways? Do you think that's really going to be the case? Does the history with the people you work with indicate that that will ever be the case? Really?
Well, why do you say that? Where do you think it's gone?
I don't know, because our roads and bridges are for crap. And this is after we've committed tens of billions of dollars each and every year through a variety of sources, and they're still falling apart. So you're saying, well, maybe the difference and maybe the answer is more money. The fact of the matter is, with the money we spend, we can't account for it.
Where do you get that? You can't account for it.
Can you account for $42 billion? Can you spell out for me, Congressman, where that $42 billion is gone?
The budget is available for every state.
I'm aware of the budget. Can you tell me where it's gone? If the goal was to fix roads and bridges, and they're still, accurately to your point, falling apart, methinks someone has stolen it. Someone has taken it.
Wow.
Wow is right. I should never have interviewed someone with a bicycle pin on their lapel, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, here's the deal. If we're already collecting more than $121 billion each year to fix our roads and bridges, and by the way, I haven't even factored in the nearly $800 billion in stimulus money that was supposedly going to shovel-ready road jobs, are politicians just shoveling something back at us? That's what I was trying to get to the bottom to. Maybe we can try with this gang: Ben Stein, Charles Payne, Dagan McDowell, along with Julie Roginski and Charlie Gasparino. Adam Leszczynski couldn't make it today. He's at a flag-burning protest. All right, so Charles Payne, what are we to make of this?
I love the interview. I mean, you're absolutely right. By the way, it's lunacy. I mean, we're going to make it cost more for so many people hurting in this economy. They got a ton of money already, and then we pay gas bills. We have fuel taxes. We have tolls. We have property. Some of the property taxes go to this.
It's not enough. What he's saying to me is it's not enough.
Every day I pay $12 to cross the George Washington Bridge. What are they doing?
How would you know? Did you see what your limo driver?
One day I read it in the newspaper.
Okay, gotcha. Gasparino.
You're not counting all the billions, tens of billions of dollars state and city bonds issued every year to build infrastructure.
Very good point.
People forget about that. And you didn't bring up the fact that we've been talking about an infrastructure crisis for the last 30 years.
Oh, yes, I did. You just saw a clip of the interview.
I was just so blown away.
I think you're very judgmental. I mean, that certainly came up. Dagan?
You're all out of your mind. The federal gas tax is not. Let's talk about one tax, the federal gas tax that goes into the Highway Trust Fund. It hasn't gone up in 20 years, but the cost of road repair and road construction has gone up 55%.
You don't think a lot more people are driving? You don't think a lot more people are using gas?
I think that the gas tax.
So you think that just because it hasn't been touched for 20 years, it's due?
It is a declining revenue source because our cars are more fuel efficient. So we're getting more.
What about all these other sources of funding?
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about one thing, and that is the federal.
But that's part of it. If you need more money, if you've got plenty of other money coming from other resources, why do you need more money from this resource?
Well, from the federal gas tax, you do need more because since 2008, that the general fund has contributed $41 billion to the Federal Highway Trust Fund. You're asking people, basically drivers are not paying their way. You're asking people who don't.
They're paying other ways.
Let me just say one thing, though. I pay $12 a day. I'm not using up $12 worth of road a day.
You don't know that. You absolutely don't know that for a fact. We are not paying for.
So you were for what this Congress wants. You were agreeing with a guy who wears a bicycle.
I don't. You know what? I don't have a problem with asking the drivers to pay, because you're essentially, by taking money from the general revenue fund to the Treasury, you're asking people who aren't using the roads to pay. I don't think that's fair.
Okay. Ben Stein.
Well, the whole idea basically is a subsidy transfer from the taxpayers and motorists to the unions. I think Dagan's got a very good point. It is very, very expensive to have a stretch of highway or a bridge repaired. We're having a lot of it done in beautiful Southern California. The wages that these gentlemen get for their work, but seems to me to consist mostly of leaning on their shovels and leaning on their pneumatic hammers.
Hey, my father did some of that leaning. Be careful there.
Well, I'm not talking about your father, Charles. I
Yes,
don't
you
think
are.
I knew
Yes,
your
you
father.
are.
But anyway,
Yes, you are. He built a few highways
but these
there.
guys are leaning on their shovels.
They're not
and
all
they're
leaning.
getting
They're
paid
not all
70,
leaning on their
80,
shovels.
$90, $100 an hour. That's
$100 an hour?
Yes, that's a subsidy
Whoa.
from the taxpayers
You're
who
telling
are
me-
earning
you're
way
telling
less
me
than that
guys
to the
that work
union
on
workers
a-
earning
guys
way
that
more.
work on
Can
the
you, for
highways.
God's sake, let somebody else talk?
$100 an
Ben,
hour.
finish the point. Finish the point, Ben.
$100 an hour.
All right,
Yes,
so
the people-
Julie, here's
the foremen are getting
Go ahead.
$100 an
All
hour.
right, well, I don't know if that's right or wrong. I do know this, Julie. All I was trying to get out of the Congressman, and all I was just trying to factor in with the 120 some odd billion amount that we're spending every year, and the point I was making about stimulus money that if you average it out would bring that up close to $200 billion a year, and I didn't even address the money we had through municipal bond financings and the rest that supposedly go to do just sort of thing. Before we ask for more money, I want to know what the heck you've done with that money. I don't care the source of that funding. I just want to know what you've done with that funding because it's slipped through a lot of cracks. And it's a lockbox for which there is no lock, apparently, or apparently a box.
Well, first of all, you're right that there should be government accountability for every penny we spend, not just the Transportation Trust Fund. But by the way, Charles, it's $13 to cross the bridge now, not 12. So, you know, I don't know. You're working on
Yeah, but if you're in a stretch limo and you're sitting in the back, it's very hard to see.
I think more than 2 axles, it's actually more Charles, and Charles usually drives those big SUVs. But you know, but to the point that Charles is actually making, first of all, the money you're paying to cross the George Washington Bridge is not going to the Transportation Trust Fund.
It's going to Easy Pass.
It's going towards rebuilding the World Trade Center and the airports. It's the Port Authority. It's nothing else. And so to Dagan's
But you see
point,
my point of, Julie, you mentioned something interesting. A lot of these funds were originally earmarked, pardon the term, for, you know, infrastructure type issues, for the type of thing that we thought, roads, bridges, and the like. And then it goes to other various uses, much as stimulus, much as TARP did. And that's the danger. That's the danger.
You're right, but Dagan is also 100, like 1,000% right in that we haven't raised this in 20 years. If you're using the roads, you got to pay to your way.
But these other sources of revenue were supposedly going to just that purpose. I'm not saying if you've exhausted. No, hear me out. And this one, I'm very serious about. Right. Charles Payne, here's what I'm saying. If you have exhausted all those funds and you can account for all those funds and they are still not enough to prevent bridges from falling down and fix all the potholes, by all means have at it. But the fact of the matter, this congressman and others like have not been able to account for that funding. And they've not been able to explain why they keep coming, to Dagan's point, $40 billion short.
The money is always the verdict. When that bridge fell in Washington State a couple of years ago, I looked at the numbers that the money they got from the stimulus package alone, very little of that actually went to bridges and tunnels. Very little of it. They got billions of dollars from the federal government, and it went to pet projects. And, you know, ultimately, I just think it's the more money we give government, the more they waste, the more they run out. And, Julie, when the World Trade Center is rebuilt, my toll will not go down. It will only go up from here.
If you're not paying the gas tax, who's going to pay for the George Washington Bridge?
I'm paying the gas tax now and a toll bridge.
Charles will pay for everything. But Gasparino, let me ask you.
Should the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey play for the
Well, you know New York very well.
And not the...
Wait a minute, Gaspar, you know New York very well. I don't know where your dad was around at this time. Remember when they built the Verrazano Bridge? They had a very expensive toll, right? And they said when the bridge is paid for, this is true, the toll goes away. The bridge was paid for like about 20 years ago.
Right. They said that.
They
said that about every major project.
That's my point. That's my point.
Listen,
so follow that money, and I'm just saying, if after all of that, you still need more money because you've accounted for that money, and we're still coming up short. But they can't account for it.
My view is this should be a state and local issue. If the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey wants to raise taxes or raise tolls, let them do it. Let them screw the people in New York, not the people in Iowa. I'm just still blown away that my dad made $100 an hour.
Well, he was going to.
You know I didn't say. You know that you know very well I didn't say that, but it would be nice if he had.
Yeah, I agree.
Dagan, bottom line, now, since you're for raising these taxes, you're fine. I think there's a little bit of a Northeast elitism to you, but I admire that because you mix it with a Southern accent. But do you think that this guy's going to get his way? If not a doubling, the people are going to say, well, you know, he is right. We haven't touched this in 20 years. It's right for the picking.
No, because people get so angry. Everybody, I don't care if
why do you say that?
Liberal or conservative, see, you prove my point. Liberal or conservative, right or left, when you talk about raising the federal gas tax, people go bananas. And that's why it hasn't gone up in 20 years. And I think that the American people look at all of the taxes they pay in terms of fuel at the state level, tolls that they pay.
Well, this is very regressive. A tax like this would be very regressive. right?
It is very regressive, so it hurts poor Americans, middle income Americans more than it hurts.
People get offended
But
when they find out, Dagan, that the government, federal and local governments, make more money from gasoline than OPEC does. Like, they're screwing us more than OPEC.
No, the federal government, 90% of the road construction and transportation costs come from the gas tax. The vast majority of our spending comes from that gas tax.
I live in New Jersey,
wasted, though.
and there's this thing called Route 80 in New Jersey. When I first got married and living in the state, now the grandparents of the kids who were first working on those repairs, the grandkids are continuing that work. It's unfinished.
Right.
Yeah,
unfinished.
but
you know what I have to say, though? If you don't believe in paying your way in terms of the gas tax, you don't have the right to bitch about potholes and stuff going wrong.
What about all the other payments? What about all the other
I'm
payments?
talking about the national gas tax.
Well, we're talking.
Well, I'm not going to get angry, but I disagree.
Interstate.